Everyone, my name is Samaya Khalik and I'm an immigration attorney. I'm excited to do today's discussion with you. Let's just give it a few seconds and then we'll get started. Okay, perfect. So today's topic is what to do when your O visa employment changes or is terminated. This is a very important topic and something that I get asked about often because sometimes things occur and you're not sure about what to do. So before we go into that topic, let's talk about what is an O visa. So an O visa is a temporary work visa that is given to individuals who can demonstrate that they have extraordinary ability in their field and they are coming here to work in either for one employer or multiple employer on a project or various projects for something that is related to what they do in their field. So you can get a O-1 visa based on having extraordinary ability in business, athletics, education, and the sciences. Or you can get a O-1B visa based on having extraordinary ability in the arts, motion picture, and television industry. A lot of the requirements are the same for the O-1 visa. They just vary slightly depending on what field you're in. So if it's for the O-1, business, education, sciences, athletics, it's slightly different than what's required for people who are in the arts, motion picture, or television industry. Generally, anybody who has a major award, such as the Nobel Peace Prize, the Grammy, Emmy, these are like really well-known and recognized awards. So they would be almost immediately eligible for an O visa. But a lot of people don't have these kind of awards, but they may have received smaller awards or national awards in their country or even some local awards. And these are things that they can use to help them qualify for an O-1 visa. And even if somebody hasn't received an award, they can still be eligible for an O-1 visa based on meeting certain requirements. So if you are working in the sciences, business, athletics, or education field, you can get an O-1 visa based on demonstrating that you meet at least 3 of the following. Well, one, definitely by having received a smaller national or local award, then by showing that you are a member of an organization that requires high qualifications to become a member of that association or organization. Another option is by showing professional publications about you and your work, showing that you have significant contributions to the field. Additionally, that there are scholarly articles that you've published, or showing other commercial success, or that you've been a judge on a panel, and then of course receiving high compensation or remuneration for your services. So if you show that you meet at least 3 of these or other comparable evidence, you can get a O-1 visa if you are working in the fields of business, science, athletics, or education. For those who are in the arts industry, they can certainly show that they qualify for an O visa by showing some of these things, but there are some specific things that they have to also demonstrate. Of course, a major award, but if not that, then at least 3 of the following. And this includes that they will have, well, they had in the past and in the future will be playing a lead or starring role in a production or event or project, that they have international or national recognition for their achievements and for the type of work that they do. So this can be either in their country or it can be in multiple countries. And generally this is demonstrated through testimonies from other experts in the industry. They can also show that they had a starring or lead role in a well-known organization or company. They can also show commercial success and through publications and major media, magazines, appearances on television, things like that. And then they can also show that they receive high compensation or remuneration for their services. So remuneration could be that a company or employer pays for you to relocate to the United States. They cover your gym membership. They fly you from one city to another city. These are extra things that a company or employer will only do for someone that they really want to work for them. And of course, that demonstrates that you're extraordinary, because employers are not likely to do that for just every employer. They will really do it for somebody who's highly qualified for a position. If you don't straight away meet some of these categories, you can show that you fit into comparable categories. A great way is by showing, your recognition in the community, online presence, your social media presence. So this is just a bit of background to understand what the O-1 visa is and who is eligible to get it. So for the O-1 visa, because it is a temporary work visa, you have to have an employer sponsor you. For some industries, it'll just be one employer and you will be coming here to work in a full-time position. For other industries, and this specifically usually applies to artists or people in the arts industry, they have multiple projects. So they have multiple employers who that they want to work for. And in that case, often they'll use an agent to do the petition for them. So there are a couple of things you have to be aware of when you're here on an O visa working for one employer or even multiple employers. And the first important thing is that your O visa is tied to your employment. So the O visa, you can get it for an initial period up to 3 years. And of course, you can always renew that continuously in 1 year increments if you continue the employment, or you can apply again for a renewal up to 3 years. But you have to show that during the 3 years, let's say you do it for the initial period of 2 years or 3 years or 1 year, whatever that time period is, that employment, you have to actually be working for that employer. The O visa is tied to the employer. If you terminate your employment with the employer that sponsored you for the O visa, and you just have that one employer, then you are no longer in valid O-1 status. Even if the validity period is longer, if you're no longer working, you may have to leave the United States unless you can find another employer who can petition for you because you're no longer working. If you are here working for multiple employers, the nice thing is that you can have, other projects that you didn't include in your original O visa application. You can work for other employers, part-time projects, as long as they are within your industry. However, even for people who are here working on multiple projects with multiple employers, first, if all of those fall through, and sometimes this happens to people, all the projects fall through, your O visa is no longer valid because you don't have any employment. So what are your options? You have to find other projects. Or let's say you're here on multiple visas and you have somebody who wants to now hire you full time. That is a significant material change. So anytime you have something in your employment, whether it's working for one employer or multiple employer, that constitutes a material change, either you will have to file for a new application while you're still here, the new employer will have to submit that, or you will have to go back to your home country and wait for that petition to be approved, or find a new employer who will apply for you and come back. So if there is a material change, and material change consists of any of the following: part-time to full-time employment, getting a completely new employer, switching the work site if you're in one city and then you're going to go to another city. Let's say the company merges with another company, and then of course if the employment is terminated. These are material changes. You have to either leave the country or find a new employer who's going to apply for the O visa for you while you're still here on a valid O visa. That's very, very important. If the O visa terminates and you're unable, if your employment terminates or it changes materially, you go from full-time, part-time to full-time, or some other substantial change that is considered material change, and you don't file for a new O visa application or leave the country, you can risk violating certain immigration laws. And let's say you're here, you don't have any more work, your employer has terminated the work, then you leave the country, you may risk not being able to return to the United States and have violated immigration laws saying that you've stayed here without authorization. We have had people who stayed in this country after their employment ended when they were here on multiple projects. They didn't get new projects. They didn't work. Then they left the United States and they tried to re-enter the United States, and the embassy did not grant them the visa. They didn't allow them to come back because they asked them, were you working in the United States while on the O-1 visa? And they were no longer working. So that's very, very important. Someone asked the question, what would happen if I don't amend my visa? So if there is like a slight change, you can amend the visa. But if there is a material change, like something substantial, you have to have the new employer apply for a whole new O visa application. If you don't, you can't work for the new employer. If there's only some slight change, let's say you're adding on a new project or something, you can submit an application to amend it and add on this new project. But if it's a whole new employer, or you're going from part-time to full-time, you have to have the new employer file the O visa application for you, and you have to wait for that to be approved before you can work for this new employer. So I hope that those of you who are here on an O visa very much understand that it's important that you follow through on the projects that you put down on your itinerary for your O visa application. And if it's working for one employer and that terminates, that work ends, and you don't have another new employer, you will have to leave the country, or you risk accruing unlawful presence and being here and violating immigration laws. Let me see, we have another question. If you're here on an O-1 visa and you also have a visitor visa, can you stay in the country after finishing the job? You can stay in the country on the visitor visa if it's still within the valid period, but you cannot work. So sometime, and you have to definitely leave before the V2 visa is up. A lot of people who have the V2 visa, they apply for the O visa while they're here, and that's fine. But at some point, they're here and they don't have a valid V2 visa. In that case, then definitely you need to leave the country. Do we have any other questions? Of course, the other thing to keep in mind is you can also be eligible for some other kind of visa. It doesn't necessarily have to be another O visa. If you have a new employer and they can petition for you for some other work type visa, let's say an L1 visa or something else, then you can change to that visa. You don't have to go with an O visa again. But if you don't have another employer lined up or another project and the work has changed or terminated, then you have to make some decision about what you're going to do. And if there's no work lined up, you do have to leave the United States. Do we have any other questions? Does anybody have any other questions regarding the O visa in general, or about their employment terminating or material changes in their job? Okay, so one last thing, keep in mind, if you are working for an employer, it's very important that if you're going to file for a renewal or an extension, that you file for that while you are still in valid O-1 visa status. Sometimes people don't file for that within the time, and then they start accruing a little unlawful presence. They're in this period where they don't have any valid status. So just make sure there are no gaps in your status and you submit that application while you're still in valid O-1 status. So if there are no further questions, I will end this discussion over here, and we have various blog posts available on our website discussing the O visa requirements, also discussing what to do if your employment terminates or there are material changes in your employment. And if you have any questions specific to your situation and you'd like to discuss them with me, please feel free to reach out to me. And of course, stay tuned for future topics regarding O visas and other types of visas as well. So thank you for joining me tonight. And remember, don't put yourself in the precarious situation. Consult with an immigration attorney if there is a change. And for more information, visit our website at www.kalikalaw.com. Take care and have a good night.